Licorice pizza, a term for vinyl 12-inch long playing or LP record, named because it is black and about the same size as a pizza.
And welcome another edition of Licorice Pizza. And before we start on this, I just want to say give it a like, comment, and subscribe, okay? And don't forget the great T-shirts for sale, any size. All right, they're different colors and some great tees. Who am I going to talk about today? Well, we are going to talk about the band Grand Funk Railroad. Hope you've all heard of these guys. If you haven't, check them out. All right. Now in Flint, Michigan, before Grand Funk were formed, there was a band Terry Knight and the Pack. And I know Mark Farner was in that band, Mel Shacker, Don Brewer. I'm not sure, but somehow that band, Terry and the Pack, they broke up. So somehow they got together and those guys got together and started Grand Funk around, I'm thinking, I think around 1968, 67, 68. And then it didn't take long. And then 69 came around and, it kind of started from there. Mel Shacker was the bass player, Mark Farner, lead guitar, and Don Brewer on the drums, three-piece power trio. They called them a power trio. Critics blasted them, especially the first 3-4 albums. They didn't like them. Fans loved them, including myself. But we'll get to now the discography of Grand Funk. Hard to believe, 1969. With On Time, that was their right off the starting gate. And some of the tunes off that, like I say, if you've never aren't familiar with Grand Funk, I would say start with their very early albums and right up straight through, because their sound did change, and we'll get to that in a second. Are You Ready? Just a killer track off that first album. A great live version of that, but a great studio version as well. Time Machine, very soulful, bluesy, the rock edge. That was Grand Funk. That was Grand Funk Railroad. And TNUC, another one of their great songs on the album, but they killer job live. Oh my God, they do this, and it's an amazing song. And Heartbreaker, one of their more popular songs, On Time. It's kind of funny too, because in 69, I'd never heard of Grand Funk. That was their debut album. I mentioned that in the episode of BTO. Okay, and that was their first album, On Time. Then they come out with that absolutely amazing album. They call it the Red Album, their second album, also from 1969. And guess what? I never heard of him even then. I can't believe it. 2 albums by Grand Funk. Yeah, Limousine Driver off that Red Album. Paranoid, Inside Looking Out. Oh my goodness, what that's like a 10-minute song or longer that they do. That's a crowd favorite if they do that live. But those 2 albums by Grand Funk, say, what was I doing? Well, I was probably listening to Three Dog Night, Deep Purple, the Beatles, the Stones, Zeppelin at that time. So yeah, those first 2 albums, and I was kind of embarrassed. Okay, we'll get to the embarrassing part. The third album's when I really started to hear about and really loved Grand Funk Railroad. But those first 2 albums, again, the third one, Closer to Home, I'm Your Captain. Yeah, that song. That's when that came out in 1970. And my brother had the 8-track, and 1970. Oh, should I mention my age? I was 13. He'd go anywhere you want to come along. I'd go along, take a ride to Potsdam, New York, not far from Messina here, probably 20 miles. And it was on 8-track. Good old 8-track. Remember those? And cranked up pretty good. I'm Your Captain. I just fell in love with that song. And it was like a year later, I bought the album, the vinyl album of Closer to Home. That's their third album. to me, kind of a breakout album for them. I think a lot of the material off that sounded like to me like their debut album from '69, On Time, and the Red album, for the exception of I'm Your Captain, Closer to Home. And we're going to get to that one song just a little bit. But that was the third album, Closer to Home. I think they became, I hate to use the word more popular. Yeah, they were. They were more popular by 1970 when Closer to Home, I'm Your Captain, of course, all like FM radio was not a big thing then. Everything was AM, but everybody was like listening to that song, and that brought their, that brought them up in popularity. Closer to Home. All right. I Am Your Captain. We'll get to that in a sec here, folks, which I'm looking forward to. And then they came out with the Survivor. That's to me, that was a change in their sound. It's not a long album. You can run through it side one and side two in no time at all. And yeah, Survivor was their fourth album. And Feeling All Right is a cover version they did, that a band Traffic with Stevie Winwood did. Also, Joe Cocker did that one, Feeling All Right. And who else I'm missing? Oh, Three Dog Night did that. Great version of Feeling All Right. And Give Me Shelter, of course, the Rolling Stones. Uh, Gotta be honest, I'd rather have the Stones version than the Grand Funk version. They're totally different tempo wise. I think you'd have to listen, but Survivor, strong album. All these albums so far I'm mentioning are good, And then they came out with Foot Stomping Music, right? And that album, E Pluribus Funk. Hope I pronounced that right. Great, great stuff off this. Foot Stomping Music is what can you say about that song? Oh my, it's on fire, man. When it first starts out, it is high tempo, high energy, foot stomping. Yeah, that'll get you up dancing and just wow, what a tune. Foot stomping music. Save the Land, yeah, good song. No Lies, Loneliness, and People, Let's Stop the War. Of course, during this time, of course, Vietnam War is still going on, and some of their lyrics, you'd have to listen to it. It's just a great album, Survivor. Very, very good album. I can't say they ever released what you could say is a bad album. Some are better than others. And then we get to, right, okay, this one right here, Phoenix, very underrated. I kind of gave it away, my underrated slice for an album of theirs, probably this one, Phoenix, very strong album. And Rock and Roll Soul, oh my goodness, what a great track and thing about Grand Funk, I think their stuff live was better, more higher energy level, definitely Rock and Roll Soul, and also Fight for the Flight of the Phoenix. That's right, off this particular album. Didn't really, sales wise, I don't think it did as well as the others that I just mentioned, but still a very strong album. But Rock and Roll Soul, I Gotta Know, that's another great song off that. And then we are going to get to what is this one? Oh boy. 1973. I went with a friend to buy this album. We used to have a store called Ames Department Store here in Messina. 1973 it is. We walked across 37. Got to get that Grand Funk album. I didn't get it. I was kind of like, oh God, I wish I want this album. And it was like this coin album. It was round. And the album inside it, I believe it was yellow. And it was so unusual. And guess what song came off that? We're an American Band. A little story behind that. Grand Funk's management at the time were two people. I think was Terry Knight still managing them. I can't remember. I know there was a woman that was, and she went to Mark Farner and the band and said, you got all these English bands, Led Zeppelin, Deep Purple, and on, Uriah Heep, all these English bands why not write a song? We are an American band. What do you say? So Mark Farner was responsible for writing just about everything they did up to this point. Big change. Don Brewer, the drummer. Drummers usually don't take over the lead vocal duties. And they he wrote, he's a writer of We're an American Band, an absolute killer song, huge hit, and it's still a classic. And they were saying Don Brewer, not Don Brewer, but Mark Farner said, I just don't want one of those cowbells, like just those cowbells that count tinny. I want a cowbell. I mean, hit it. You could tell in the beginning of that song, right? The beginning of the drums, it's rocking. That song, number one, man, that the album, I think was number one, number two, and whatever. It was huge. And that album is fantastic, man. I love that album. The Railroad, another great song off that. And this one is Walk Like a Man, another great song. No, that's not Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons, Walk Like a Man. This is their song. Black Licorice, another great tune. And so many, wow. Ain't Got Nobody, yeah, great song off that album. We're an American Band. Don Brewer, that's a big change. You know, he wrote that song and sang it, and just the vocals were great on that. You know, a lot of people thought, oh, Mark Farner sang that. No, Don Brewer sang that song. But we're an American Band. What an album. From 1973. I finally did end up buying that album, but then they started switching. You know, the first pressings are the original pressings of that album, and it's like a gold mint, and then you take the album out and it's all yellow. They started changing all that during the second pressing. All right, now we're going to get to a song of mine and what it means to me. No doubt about it, my favorite Grand Funk song is I'm Your Captain, Closer to Home. And listen to an interview of a couple of days ago, actually, it was, of Mark Farner, how he wrote the song, and I couldn't find very much on that. And I did find a clip of 5 minutes of how he wrote that song. Just fantastic song. It can mean something different to everybody. You know, if you're a Christian, I'm getting closer to my home, which is heaven. Now, and the way I look at it, driving down to say somebody comes back from the service, or an individual hasn't seen their family, say, in 3-4 years, and the tempo of the song, of course, changes. I'm getting closer to my home. Well, and you just crank that up, and he's 10 miles away. And the song keeps building up at the end. I'm getting closer. Now it's 5 miles. That's very meaningful when you haven't been home like in 3-4 years, or maybe longer. So that song can mean different things to different people. Like the interpretation, well, it means that to me. Well, somebody else, well, kind of means that to me. The whole song's just, and he wrote that, Mark Farner, as he was praying at night. He said, his mom used to say their bedtime prayers. So he said one, wrote some lyrics down, and asked God, okay, hey, I just need help writing this song. And then he left it. In the morning, the lyrics are there. Then he went out to have coffee, cup of coffee, his guitar, and the horses outside. He said they were kind of running around, and that lead part right in the beginning. And he worked from there. He said it came very quick. Then he started strumming the C, C chord or D or whatever it is, and started playing that. And he said, I really got something here. Maybe those lyrics yesterday, maybe I can use those. And he put both of them together, and it created that masterpiece. My favorite song, yeah, man. If you've never heard I'm Your Captain, Closer to Home, please, if you do, turn it up. You really need to crank that. It's just such an awesome song. And another thing behind that, I said, well, I wonder if they talk about the orchestra string arrangements at the end? He did. A guy by the name of Thomas Baker. James Brown was playing in Cleveland, Ohio. Thomas Baker's band, orchestra, and stuff were backing up James Brown. And Mark Farner's on that bill. And Mark Farner's playing guitar, and it's Thomas Baker, the band leader. My God, what are you doing? What is that? Are you kidding me? He says, I'm going crazy here, the band leader. Mark said, that's the song we're working on it right now. We haven't recorded it yet. He said, brother, if you want to, I'm getting closer to my home part, man. If you need a band, please keep me in mind in our band. You get the whatever, the cellos, violins, trumpets, or whatever's in there at the end. And yeah, that's how that came about. It's just like it was an accident. But man, did it ever work. The end of that song just builds, and then it kind of fades out. It's an awesome song. So can't say enough about it. And I know Elijah that works radio station with me. We both play that tune. It's a crowd favorite. Everybody loves it. So what do I have here? Grand Funk hit years. Yes. One thing I want to mention too, on a side note, by 73, I think they became more of a hit machine. We're an American band. Then Locomotion, the album Shining On from 74, big top 40 AM hit. All the Girls in the World, Beware. One of the worst album covers of all time. Great album, but okay. I get beyond that. It's the cover of it's, okay. I'm sure you'll see it up here. And the single Bad Time, Some Kind of Wonderful, 2 great pop songs, both big hits. So their sound was changing, and the critics started liking Grand Funk. They were crucified in the beginning. Their first 4 albums, critics didn't like them at all. I said, what's there not to like? I said, wow, double live album from 71, Grand Funk Live, absolute fantastic. No overdubs, raw, like right in your face kind of band. Yeah. And we can't forget about Shea Stadium. Can't forget about Shea Stadium. The Beatles played there in 65, 66. Grand Funk plays there in 1971. Sold out in 72 hours. Shea Stadium. Back then, folks, got a crowd, 58,000 people, because it's a baseball field. Nobody was allowed inside the field. And I was watching one of the songs where the dugout is, and the rafter where they sit shaking like this, literally. And Mark Farner says, man, we thought it would collapse during the show. That's right at their very height, popularity. And they put a performance on there, no monitors, music monitors. What'd you have for lights? Not much. Amplifiers, plug in the guitar, crank it. And this is a stadium. And they sounded absolutely, I don't think they cared. They were so in the moment. Very intense, Grand Funk. They couldn't believe it. I said, oh my goodness, look at this. This is where the Beatles played, and we're playing there now. Wow. Unbelievable. Shea Stadium, they sounded amazing. Okay, and one guy I want to mention, Craig Frost. They were 3-piece. Well, Craig Frost played the Hammond organ and joined Grand Funk in 1972. 73, and then they added that keyboard, which I loved. Thought they fit right into their sound. And of course, Grand Funk toured with Led Zeppelin a year, maybe 72, 73. I'm thinking 72 it was. And they were such a great live band that the crowd didn't want them to leave. They'd opened up for Led Zeppelin, and they were playing a show, and everything was turned off as they're playing. All you could hear is Don Brewer playing the drums, and they had shut their equipment off because the crowd was going so crazy for this band. And so they said no. They were kicked off the Led Zeppelin tour. That's how good they were live. That's a true story. And you can look that up on YouTube. Mark Farner talks about it. But that's what a great live band they were. I mean, Zeppelin, Led Zeppelin, right? So yeah, that's I wouldn't want to follow them. You watch their stuff and I think, oh my God, we're the headliner. Oh dear. Maybe they should go on first and we go on second. They were so much energy with them. That band, they didn't slow down for anybody. It's just a great live band. And they're still touring without Mark Farner, Don Brewer, and Mel Shacker, the Shaker. They're still touring. In fact, they were up here, not too far from here, 4 years ago at the casino up here. So, yeah, they're still doing it. They still sound good, but I wish Mark Farner, make it happen. Nobody's getting any younger. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, I hope they can make that happen. Underrated Slice. One of the albums underrated, I think, is Survivor. Nobody talks about that album at all. Remember the albums Survivor? And these are people that know a lot about Grand Funk. Oh, that one. Yeah, that's from 71. No, they don't. But that's an underrated Slice. My favorite Slice, favorite album. Okay, I'm going to give you three. My favorite Grand Funk albums. The red one first, 69, On Time, number 2, and Closer to Home at number 3. Very close there. I just love their early stuff. Not that the later ones weren't good. They had some great stuff, back then. So, but Grand Funk, yeah, I'm sure a lot of you listening to this are familiar with Grand Funk. And for those of you not really that familiar, maybe you're familiar with Word American Band, but I'm an album guy. I like the not only the hits, a great song, but I like listening to the whole album, for better or for worse. Sometimes, yeah, you've ran into that. There might be 2 hit songs off it and the rest are duds. Don't find that with Grand Funk at all. I'm trying to remember how many years ago this was. I brought Mark Farner on stage, Franklin County Fair, many years ago. I'm trying to think, what year would that be? I'm 97, 90, 96. I can't a long time ago. Say, let me guess, just 25 years ago. And an absolutely amazing show. I got to meet him, and I think they were praying before they started. They had their heads down before they went up on stage. You could just tell by Mark Farner, man, I'm ready. He gives like so much, but it was an honor. They asked me, to do it, and I said, yep. And one of the things you want to do when there's difficulty, business problems within the band, the name, copyrighted name and all that, you can't say, certain things. I think I brought Mark Farner on, and I said, Mark Farner, formerly of Grand Funk. I'm not sure if I said Railroad or not. There's all these little things you got to be careful. But they told me beforehand, what to say. And I said, okay. And you can't waver from that, because they could get in trouble, and it's just the way the music business works. But it was an honor. Great band. Mark Farner, great band. Lead playing was great. And yeah, that was quite an honor to bring him on stage. And just a great guy. And sat in the first row or close to it. No, I think I might have been back a little bit, but what an awesome show that was. And bringing him on stage. Absolutely. And that is that. I'm trying to think of something else I could tell you. Personal stuff. I'm Your Captain. Just many, many hours listening to that song or that album too, as well, on 8-track. Everybody talks about, remember the days of 8-track? Oh, yes, I do. Yep. And then the tape would get stuck or something. You don't know the pain of it all, Try nowadays, you can just no problem, everything's digital today. But that's my take on Grand Funk. I think they released something like 13 or 14 albums. I think they've got 4 live albums out. DVDs, I'm not sure if they have any DVDs out. But all right, my favorite slice again. Favorite album, if I had to pick one album, it's the Red Album, 69. And underrated slice is Survivor. That Survivor album, nobody talks about it. It's a good album, really strong album by Grand Funk. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And those great t-shirts, again, folks, different colors, different sizes. Do check that out. And until next time, peace out.